Only one problem on that, so I'm going to kind of wrap up today, kind of the couple of more things that you're going to see on the final and stuff, and circles is certainly one of those things, okay? So this is the packet that's in the back of the class, so we'll go ahead and start with this then. All right, so what we look at is a type of equation that we call a circle, the graph of a circle, and that kind of thing like that. So a circle, what it is you know that a circle is, you learn about this in geometry in high school or whatever, you have a center and, crop circles. I always think of crop circles when I teach this because years and years and years ago, there were people that said crop circles had to be made by aliens. And I'm convinced that they're made by human beings. I could be wrong, though. But it's not that hard to make a circle. What you do is you put a piece of rope and you just go around it, and that's what the radius is. The radius is the distance that gives you that circle. You can make a pretty close to perfect circle just by taking a rope, tie it to a stake, and walking around like that. The people that do these crop circles, to me, are people that know a lot about math and they know a lot about art. But that's what we mean by a circle, is all these points are equally distant from that center. Okay, so I want you on here to draw this picture right here, just a simple picture. Now we're going to look at a graph, put a point right there, and that point is 0, 0. That's the origin like that. Okay, so then just kind of put a point out here somewhere. We're going to call that a point P, and the coordinates of that point are x and y. Okay, I'm going to show you where we get the equation of a circle from. So what happens is you can take that point and go straight down to the x-axis like that and do that. And what you're going to get is a triangle. This part right here is going to be the value of y, and this little part right here is going to be the value of x. Okay, so if you have a point, you're going over x and up y like that, and then just connect these two dots, and then that part right there is the radius of the circle. The radius is the distance from the center to a point on that. Okay, now we've done Pythagorean theorem in here at some point, haven't we? I think. I don't remember. I don't teach college algebra hardly ever, so I sometimes kind of forget about some of those things. But the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that just means if you have a right triangle, a and b are what we call the legs, and c is called the hypotenuse. So actually, Pythagorean theorem, that's you're going to say x squared, that's like the a, and then you're going to say y squared, and that's equal to r squared. And that right there is the general form of a circle that has a center of 0, 0. It comes from the Pythagorean theorem. That's where that comes from. So the number one thing that you want to know is how to take an equation of a circle and be able to identify its center and radius and then draw a graph. So we'll kind of start pretty simple on these kind of problems right here to begin with. Okay. All right. So let's go look at these examples down here. First of all, if it says x squared plus y squared, that means automatically the center of this circle is 0, 0. That you're going to know automatically, okay? Now what this is this 9 right here, that 9 is not the radius, it's the square of the radius. So really you end up with r squared equals 9, okay? How do you solve that equation? I did teach you that. What do you do to both sides if you have r squared equals 9? Square root, right? Okay, so we square root both sides, and you get r equals plus minus 3. But there is no such thing as a negative radius, at least in college algebra. There isn't. In trigonometry there is. But the radius is just going to be 3. Okay? And you can do that in your head. It's just the square root of 9 gives you that radius. Okay? Now I'm going to have you draw a graph. Okay? Real easy to graph a circle. So just kind of, you need to just make all of your axis go out 3 units like this. So we have 3, -3, and then we have 3 and -3 like that. So when you graph your circle, you just kind of start at the center right there, just put a dot in the middle, that's your center, and then the radius just means you're going out 3. So what I would do is just put a dot there, put a dot there, and so forth. So you're just moving 3 units away. Not that dot there, I didn't need to put that dot there. And then the circle is just kind of going like this. Okay, so that's what you do to graph your circle, and that radius is going to be 3 like that. Okay, so that's what that equation is. It's just saying that the distance from the center to some point on the circle is 3, that's what the radius is. Okay, let me ask you a question for your background. Is that a function? What's that test we learned to tell something's a function? It's not a function. That fails the vertical line test. So these things are not functions, but they are equations, okay? All right, so here's the next problem right here. Real simple on this one. You automatically know the center is 0, 0, okay? Do you know what the radius is in your head? You can do this in your head. 2, exactly. So remember that 4 is really r squared. So if you have r squared equals 4, then you can do the square root of both sides, you get r equals 2. You don't worry about -2, we don't have that. So that would be your center, that would be your radius. And again, when you draw your graph, just do exactly what we did on the last problem. You're going to put your center in the middle, and then just go out 2 on each axis. Okay, that kind of gives you your x and y intercepts, and then just try to draw a circle the best you can, okay, around like that. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, all right. So this part right here will be pretty simple to you, I think. Okay, the next problem is, again, the center is still 0, 0. We're going to change that in a minute. And then r, what do you think r is in this problem? What'd you say? √8, right, good. Okay, so we're going to do that. And don't worry about the plus or minus, so you have r equals square root of 8. And remember, we learned to break these things up before earlier in the semester. You break that up into square root of 4 times square root of 2. So that would be 2√2. Square root of 8 is correct, but you can simplify that like that. So if you're going to draw a picture of this problem, then I would just, go ahead and take the square root of 8 and just approximate that. So that is approximately, whoops, happened to my calculator. Got the calculator working again at least. So that is about 2.8. So again, if you draw your picture on this one, you're just going to go out about 2.8 units. Okay, a lot of times you're not going to have a whole number radius. You're going to have a square root radius. Okay, so again, you put your center there, go out about 2.8. Doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of estimate where 2.8 is. And then that's what your circle is going to look like that. Okay, so that'll kind of get you started on the basic idea there. Any question about that? That's super easy. X squared plus y squared equals a number is a circle with center 0, 0. Okay, now a lot of this stuff relates to what we did. These things right here, this is what we call the standard form of a circle, where the center is not 0. So the center is going to be HK. What you want to think about is we learned how to do this, transformations. This really is moving the center to the right H, and it's moving the other part of the center to the right K. Those are transformations right there. So when we look at these problems, once you put these numbers here, then the center is not going to be 0, 0 anymore. It's going to shift either left or right, like we learned earlier in the semester, okay? But the radius will still be the same. So I want to work with you a little bit on the standard form of a circle where your center is not 0, 0, okay? Okay, so we'll kind of start kind of simple on this. Okay, this is standard form. So the center of the circle, think of it this way, x minus 4, what is that doing? It's moving you to the right 4. And what's the minus 3 doing? That's really kind of moving that up 3. And that's kind of different with your transformations. But the idea is that's going to be 4, 3 like that. That's your center like that. Okay? And it's because the standard form of that is y minus k. Okay? So if it's y minus k, what that's really doing is that's just moving that 3 units like that. So that's your center like that. Okay, your radius is still the same thing. So you have r squared equals 9. You can do square root of both sides. You get r equals 3. So that's your radius of 3. So I think when I was talking about transformation, I probably, the x is what's moving left, right. The y part's really moving up, down on a circle when you're doing that. Okay, so what we do now is when we draw the graph, go ahead and locate your center. So your center is 4, 3. Just put a little dot where 4, 3 is. And then what you're going to do is just kind of move over 3 units in every direction. So just go 1, 2, 3 and put a dot, 1, 2, 3, put a dot, and so forth. Okay, so I think I got that okay. So that's it. It's real easy to draw a graph of a circle if you know the center and then you know the radius. Okay, so that's what your graph looks like. Okay, that's standard form like that. Okay. All right, so now what happens on this one is this one, if this is a +2, then the center, your center on this one is going to be -2, -2. So it's always going to be the opposite of that number. If it's minus, you keep the number. If it's plus, it's negative like that. What's the radius on this problem just in your head? Okay, that's 4, so that's all the same. So r is 4, so we get like that. You just got to know how that center works. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same kind of idea here. Go ahead and graph your center. So go left 2, down 2. Okay, and then just if the radius is 4, just go to the right 4 from that center. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go up 4 from the center. Go left 4. And then go down 4 like that. And then you can sketch in and kind of connect the dots into a circle the best you can. Okay? Okay. All right. Everybody understand how I'm doing that center? Just the opposite number, -2, -2. Okay? Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this one. Okay. So let's see what we know on this. Okay. What do you think the center is? This one looks a little bit different than the last one. What do you think? There you go, -1, 0. Excellent. Okay. So if you need to write this down, this is really it's x minus -1 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 64. The standard form always has a minus in it. And if you write it that way, that's your center right there. Now, you don't have to do that. You can learn to do that pretty easily in your head. So that's -1, 0 like that. Okay. If you don't have y minus something, it's got to be 0. It's got to be y minus 0. Okay, your radius on this is 8. Take the square root of 64, so you get 8 like that. Okay, and then again, when you draw your graph on this, just locate your center, which is at -1, 0, and then go ahead and just go 8 units from that. 1, 2, 3, that would take you to 7, would take you up 8, would take you down 8. And then if we go -1, left 8, that would be at -9 like that. Okay, so that's what the graph of that circle looks like, just like that. It's hard to draw a circle on this thing. Okay? All right, any questions? Okay. This part is generally fairly easy to learn. The end part of this will be a little bit harder, but it is going to do some things that we learned how to do earlier in the semester. So go ahead and do number 9 and number 10, and then I want you to see if you can figure out the multiple choice on 11 and 12. So I'll see if you're doing these okay, and then we'll kind of do the last part of this together here, because I do want to start the other handout today. This is a pretty short section, so it's pretty easy to learn too. Now, if you end up with a square root for your radius, try to simplify that. That will happen on number 10. don't know if I like that problem number 11. I took that out of a computer. It's a little hard to tell what that one is. Number 12 is a better example.
Okay, so let's kind of see what it's doing here.
Yeah, just 2√3, 3.46. That's right. That one's not A. Because the center is right in up. Now hold on. You got 4, 4.2 is the center. Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right. I wrote the wrong big down on that. Let me see your graphs on that. Let's make sure your graphs look okay. That one, when you do that, 2√3 would be what I'd be looking for on that. Okay. And I thought that one was D. I thought the number 11 was D. That one doesn't have a very good graph on it, so it's kind of hard to, because it's hard to tell. I think what they're saying is that's going all the way to 9. That's down 4, that's up 8. So I don't like that thought very much. So you've got that okay. You've got the graph okay. Okay, that is 0 now on that, so it should be 0, 4. Because it's really parentheses x minus 0. Okay.
This one or we got that?
That's good. 2.46.
What's the correct answer on 11?
I thought D. That's what I thought. I thought that's what made the most sense. The scale is kind of a bad thing the way that is. That's right. 0, 4. Now the only thing on that is your center is right here. That's where 0, 4 is. Yeah, so you just need to adjust that. Got it radius.
What do the transformations mean? 2x, 4y.
What's that?
What are the 2x, 4y transformations mean?
Don't worry. Well, this right here is just, you don't want to go and think about transformations on a circle necessarily. This just you want to just think of the center as -1, 2.
Okay.
So, I mean, the reason that's a better choice than this one is this would have the center 1, -2. And then we hadn't learned anything about A and B yet.
Yeah, I was like something.
So, and we're going to learn that next, so we'll get to that point here in just a minute here. Okay, all right, so there's a couple of things that I saw in here. Let's go ahead and just check and make sure we all doing this okay. There we go. Okay, all right, so the center on number 9 was -3, 4. The radius was 2. Okay, so you should have went left 3 up 4, then just kind of put your radius on that, go to the right 2, up 2, like that. So that's what you should have on number 9. I think everybody's got number 9 okay. All right. Okay, number 10, what was your center? That would be, this is really x minus 0 squared plus y minus 4 squared. So your center is 0, -4, or 0, I'm sorry, 0, 4. So that would be a y-intercept like that. R squared is equal to 12. You do the square root of both sides, you get r equals, and you can break that up into 4 times 3. So I'd be looking on that you got as your radius 2 root 3. And what is 2 root 3? Was that about 3 point, what did you guys get, 3.5-ish or something like that? About, okay, right? So then what you'd have on this is just go over to the right, about 3.5, 1, 2, 3.5 up, and so forth. Okay, all right, so that's what you should have on that. Okay, everybody okay with your graphs and everything so far? Okay. Got to have that down before you kind of put together the last part. And at this part, I wouldn't look at A and B because we hadn't even learned that form yet. That's the last part we learn on this. But this C is really saying your center is 1, -2, and D is saying your center is -1, 2. So this is a better choice. The scale on these things is hard to read. This is saying it goes between -9 and 9 and -4 and 8. So D is the best choice on that. Okay, based on that. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, let's see. This one, well, you can get this one pretty easily. This one, the center is 4, 2. Okay, so this one, and then it looks like your radius is 6. So this one would match with A like that. Okay, so you have a radius of 6, center of 4, 2. Okay. All right, so now the last part of this is the part, and this is what you'll see on the final exam. Everything that I kind of did previously is preparing you for this. This is just what we call the general form of a circle. So if you multiply out the standard form, you get x squared plus y squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0. Okay, that is what we call the general form of a circle. And what you have to do, we learned how to do completing the square way back at the beginning of the semester when we were learning how to do quadratic equations. So let's go down to this 14 and I'll show you what you need to do on this, okay? And we've had enough background on this that it'll be a reasonably easy thing to learn. First thing that you want to do is you want to get all of your x's grouped together like this. So just put a set of parentheses around x squared minus 12x, and then leave a blank there because we're going to complete the square on that like we learned how to do earlier in the semester, okay? Then put your y's together. Your y's are this, okay? So we're going to just write that down as put a new set of parentheses, now put y squared minus 6y, have a little blank there. And then the other thing you want to do is if you have a number, move that number to the other side of the equation so it becomes -29. So what you're always going to do when you have this kind of general form of a circle is you group the x's, group the y's, have the number on the other side. The reason we're doing that is we want our answer to look exactly like what I just taught you. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. That's what we're after. Okay, now this will be something we learned before. What you do, and you can learn to do this in your head, is you take half of that 12 and you get -6. Then square -6, so you get positive 36. Okay, when we complete the square, you take half of the number in front of x, then square it. So, okay, so put a plus 36 there. And now to keep from changing the problem, you have to add 36 to the other side. If you forget to add 36 to the other side, you've changed the problem. Okay? All right, look at the next thing here. You can do this in your head, but again, what you're doing is -6 divided by 2 is -3, then square -3. So what do I do to both sides now? Add 9. There you go. Good. Plus 9 like that. Okay, so that's how that gets put together. Okay, now, factoring is something we've done all semester, so now we're going to factor this. So this goes like this. When we factor the x squared minus 12x plus 36, that's x and x, and 6 times 6 gives you 36, and you'll have 2 minus signs. You're always going to have the same number twice, okay? Then you move to the next one, but you draw two parentheses, so you'd have y and y. 3 times 3 to get 9, and then you would have to have minus minus, so you get that, okay? Then you can take a calculator if you needed to. This is 45 minus 29, so that is 16, I think, okay? So now we can write this as x minus 6 to the second plus y minus 3 to the second is equal to 16, okay? That's the standard form. And you want to put that in the answer blank for x minus 6 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16. Okay, you guys understand what I did? You remember that complete the square that we did way back when? Okay, all right, now it's pretty easy. What's the center? 6, 3, okay. What's the radius? 4, right? Okay, so we got that. So you guys were doing fine on that a little earlier in class, so that's it. Okay. Now this is what you'll see on your final exam, is you'll see one problem where you have a general form of a circle, you find the center and radius and graph it. I'm not going to graph this problem, but we went over how to do that. Okay, let me do a problem, and then I'm going to let you maybe just try one of these, just kind of give you time to do that. This one's a little harder. It's got one extra little piece to it. So again, you always want one side equals 0. Okay, if one side's not equal 0, you make it hold on, I said that totally backwards. You need to make sure your constant is on the other side. Okay, so what we want to do is move the 5 to the other side and then group together all of your x's. Okay, just like I did the last problem, have 4x squared minus 12x, and then have a blank there because you're going to complete the square. Okay, then put together your y terms. Okay, so we'll have plus 4y to the second plus 16y, and then equal to 5 like that. Okay, now be careful about this. Don't start completing your square yet. You need to factor that 4 out. That 4 has to come out, and over here the 4 has to come out there. It has to, right? Because otherwise you want it to say x minus something. So go ahead and factor the 4 out. Okay, that's going to leave you with 4x squared minus 3x now, like that. Okay, and then take it out of the second one, take the 4 out. So that will be y squared plus 4y, like that then. Okay, then that's equal to 5. Okay, so I've got my x's together, got the y's together, and factored the 4 out. Okay, this one's going to have a fraction in it, but that's okay. All right, everybody with me okay? Okay, now we're ready to complete the square. This is where we do this. So, and don't worry about it if you end up with a decimal, that's okay. It doesn't matter. So what you're going to have is negative 3 divided by 2. Now, I wouldn't go to negative 1.5. I would just square that thing. Okay, so if you square that, you square negative 3, you get 9. You square 2, you get a 4. Okay, so you're going to put a 9/4 there. Okay, like that. Okay, and then we'll kind of talk about that. So again, what I did was I took half of the 3 and then squared that. Okay, now watch this carefully. Students almost always want to do this. Plus 9/4 plus 9/4 is totally wrong. Okay, I did not add 9/4 here. What I did was I added 4 times 9/4. That thing, you have to pay attention to that. So what you get here is you really have 4 times 9/4. So add 4 times 9/4 to both sides. You can't make that mistake. That's a real common mistake to make. Okay. All right. Now let's do this one now. Okay. So now we take the 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Square the 2. This time you're going to get plus 4. So this one, you're going to have plus 4. But again, don't say plus 4. What are you going to say? Plus 4 times 4 is 16. Okay? So you got to make sure that you have that like that. That's a real important thing to pay attention to. Okay? So what we have now is we have this. So let's see, with this particular problem, what we're going to have now is we're going to have 4 times, and then we're going to go ahead and factor this, okay? So we're going to have x and x, and we haven't factored stuff with fractions, but what is the square root of 9/4? What do you multiply twice that gives you 9/4 anyway? 3/2, right? 3/2 times 3/2 gives you 9/4. So you're going to have that there, and you're going to have that there, and then a minus and minus like that. Okay, so that's how that goes. Okay, all right, and then here we do the same thing. You're going to factor this. You've got y and y. 2 times 2 is 4. So you got plus and plus like that. So that's how that goes. Okay. Now what I'm going to do on this is I need to kind of work with this side. So on this right side, I'm going to have this. See, those 4's cross out. So you really have 5 plus 9 plus 16. So that part right there would just be equal to 30 is what that would be. Okay. Okay, so that's a little bit harder on this. You won't see this kind of problem on the final. The one I'm going to have you do in a minute here is a better example of that because it isn't going to have the fractions and stuff in it. Okay, so one other thing I got to do on this problem is we don't want these 4's here, so you have to divide both sides of this equation by 4 to get your standard form then. Okay, all right, so those are going to go away. So what you have as your standard form is you have x minus 3/2 to the second plus y plus 2 to the second, and then you can reduce 34ths to 15/2, like that. Okay, so the standard form is going to be x minus 3/2 plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 15/2, like that. Okay. All right. Okay. What's the center? There you go. 3/2 negative 2. So you can have fractions in there. What's the radius? What do we always do with that number? Take the square root of it, right? So that's just square root of 15/2, and that's good enough. You can leave it like that. Okay, that's how that goes. Okay. Okay, that's a little harder problem. I just wanted to show you kind of one of the things that can happen. But I'm more interested that you can do something more like this next example. So I'm going to let you all try to go ahead and do this one. Okay, and again, when you do this problem 16, group the x's together, group the y's together, and that 85 needs to move to the other side. Okay, make sure that you always move that the other side. So let's do that and see if this one hopefully will work out a little bit easier than that last one. Handout here because I do want to at least introduce you to the idea on that one. Okay, so this one you have x squared plus 18x. You group the x's together. You group the y's together. And then you have 9 minus 85. When you move the 85 to the other side, it gives you that. Okay, and again, this goes like this. Half of 18 is 9. Then 9 squared gives you 81, so you should have added 81 to both sides. On the 4, you take half of 4, which is 2. Square the 2, you get a 4. So this is basically how this should have worked, is like this. Okay, so this factors as x plus 9, x plus 9. This second one factors as y plus 2, y plus 2. The factors are always the same factor. That's why completing the square works. And then that side turned out to be 9. So your standard form would have been x plus 9 to the second plus y plus 2 to the second equals 9. So your center should be -9, -2. Then your radius is 3. Okay, so I don't think I saw too many problems. The only thing I saw was some of you didn't have that -76 in there. Just when you move that 85 to the other side, make sure its sign changes. Okay? All right, everybody good? Okay, all right, you always do so well in class. You really got to do well outside of class. That's the key. All right, so that will wrap that up. I'm going to go ahead and start